Thank you, Nalani. Okay, up next, I'd like to welcome to the stage one of the co-directors of the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization. And I feel like only saying her name isn't full service, so the other co-director is Nani Barreto, who we'll be bringing to the stage today, Elizabeth Pickett. I'm taking the flag with me.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back. I hope everyone enjoyed yesterday and last night's kickoff and dinner, and that you were able to have some good conversations. This gathering is about so much more than just presentations, although today is our formal day, as you can see. Throughout the entire experience, we want lots of socializing and connecting. And also, this work requires the human part of us to connect, and it also has a lot of technical details. And we're constantly spanning all of that all at once. And so this experience kind of has time for socializing and also time to get to business. And today is kind of the business day. But it's really about shared learning and moving forward together. So thank you so much for joining us. This work doesn't happen alone, and so many folks who've gone yesterday and today in their presentations have already spoken to this and honored this, but we had a lot of folks come together to plan, a very small planning team, but then the carrying out of this summit took a lot of different people. We had sponsors who donated money toward it, we had sponsors who donated toward the food and drinks and your swag bags and things like that. And so we just wanted to acknowledge that a lot of folks came together to create the entire experience. And thank you to you who are attending, and also the folks who keep up all of these community centers so that things like this can happen. It's kind of the message of the summit anyway, that it takes all of us and we're all in this together, and the summit is no exception. For those of you who are not familiar with our organization, I stuck this slide in at the last minute, realizing that maybe we should talk about that for a minute. Our organization is Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization. We are a nonprofit. We were founded in the year 2000 by a whole diverse set of folks who came together because they saw that wildfires were increasing in frequency and in size and threatening both natural resources and communities. So that early group that came together was already very diverse, and they looked around for who was doing this cross-boundary work across the system, because they could see already it was a systems problem. It would take a systems solution, meaning lots of partners. And there wasn't anyone working on it in that way, so they founded our organization to fill in the gaps, to be proactive, always to maintain the coordination and collaboration that's necessary to do this kind of work well. And since that time, we've become a hub for wildfire-related information, education, training. We have lots of risk reduction and mitigation projects, and it's been a long couple of decades, and the journey has been sort of interesting. But we started off on West Hawaii Island. Then it was this big deal to go island-wide, and then we were asked to go to Maui, and then Chief Westerman asked us to start working here in, I think, 2010. And then we've gone, since going statewide, we also have gone Pacific-wide, because this is an emerging issue across our whole region. And there's a lot of work to be done, and we're so grateful and proud to be a part of this big movement and effort. So, the purpose of the summit. We've said it so many times, yesterday and already today, that we can't solve this alone. There's no one fire chief, one agency, one utility company, one community, one anything that can actually do all the things that need to get done. And no one authority has jurisdiction and complete say over every one of the private and public interests, every single agency, everything. Nobody has that. And so this work requires us to stay connected, to connect across our state, to connect and bridge across sectors. And that is really the purpose of these summits, is so that we can gather and have a chance to put it all in one place once a year at least, and just see what's happening across the system to stay connected, and ideally to think together about where we go next and how best to do so. And it's based on the idea and the concept that our trust in our relationships is our infrastructure, and it is the method by which we can get done what we need to do. This work is not that kind of work where it's just fun and it's just for whatever, and who cares if there's duplication or competition, and everyone's doing their own thing. Lives are on the line. Our homes are on the line. Our irreplaceable natural resources are on the line. And we can't waste money, and we can't waste time, and we can't do that thing that happens in other businesses or sectors. Like, this is not that kind of issue. And our early founders saw that and created this opportunity, or created our organization and lots of other coordinating groups, and then this summit. And whenever we gather, it's an opportunity to remind ourselves of that and to make connections where we can. We have some ground rules. They're good ones. Everyone is both a teacher and a learner. And this work is constantly evolving. The technical portions, the science is constantly helping us better understand. So we need to be constantly learning. We need to reach out and learn from each other so we don't reinvent the wheel. But the other part is we're all learning as we go, and we have lots to share. So we just invite you to think about things like that, both at the summit and in the greater work that we all do. And to invite you to be curious and open-minded, to take care of yourself and the people around you. Today is really about Hawaii. Yesterday we connected to the broader work that's going on across the continent and what's happening to all of us and in different parts of the system. And today is about talking about what's happened since the last summit. It doesn't highlight every last thing that is happening, which is kind of, I talked about it last night, but it's kind of awesome. There's so much happening. Every agency I can think about now kind of understands that there's a role. Lots of folks are stepping it up. A lot of people who knew there was work to do but didn't have funding are now getting some funding to do that. And other folks who were not at the table before are at the table. And the private sector is getting engaged, utilities, insurance. We have 60 Firewise communities that are in the process, somewhere in the process of being Firewise. I mean, there's a lot of work going on, so there's no way we could do that in one day, but we did try to highlight some good stuff across the system just to keep everyone kind of in the loop of the general nature of the cool stuff that's happening. So we can take a look at how the day is organized. It's in your program. But essentially, we have organized all of this according to the National Cohesive Wildland Fire Management Strategy. We call it the Cohesive Strategy for short. And the reason that we do this is because this is a very complicated issue. And it can get very overwhelming when you start to say, everyone has a role, everyone needs to do their part. And it covers everything from policies and funding and laws and ordinances down to the technical details of the engineering side of things and the community work and the landscape work, and it starts to feel like so much. And I don't know, about 12 years ago, Wildfire Leadership Council and others at the national level they were really trying to give us a shared language, a shared framework, a shared way to think about this whole system, because no part of the system alone can do all the things we need to do. So we have to break it apart, and then we also have to put it back together again. And so this is a helpful framework to use. And so we use the framework in the community wildfire protection plans. National funding opportunities ask you what part of the cohesive strategy categories you're working within and what goals it addresses. So it's a really helpful construct, and so a lot of stuff in Hawaii is organized like this. That said, there's a lot of overlap, and this is the official cohesive strategy graphic. And while it focuses on communities adapting to the risks that they face and all the people parts of the system and the policies and the home hardening and all that sort of stuff, built environment, there's also the work towards resilient landscapes, and that's resilient toward many types of threats. And of course, simultaneously, we need to make sure that we have the best, most safe and effective emergency response we could have. So the day is organized in a way where at the start of each session, the moderator is going to go into detail about what the goals are of those cohesive strategy tenets. But I will say the overlap is a really complicated and important place to be working within. And we've done a good job in Hawaii because it was actually even hard to figure out which of our presenters fell into which categories because it's so integrated that they're kind of doing both. So you'll hear about forestry operations and landscape management in the communities portion because they're also doing community risk reduction and supporting land management work in areas where the communities are most threatened, and so there's this natural integration. And then similarly in the resilient landscape section, there are folks that are having to work a lot in the people and human space and in policy world and navigating a lot of human things in order to do the vegetation management work. So it's actually really hard in Hawaii to tease it apart and make it just singular. And that's a good thing, but it makes it hard to exactly show where it falls in the framework. But overall, in general, if we use this framework, it really helps us to track what's going on and what needs to be done. So at the last minute, I stuck in these slides because I realized that maybe not everybody is really already having the same foundation of information about fire in Hawaii. And I want to credit Dr. Clay Charlick, who's here, and Melissa Camara, who we've been using these slides for like 10 years. But they're still true, and it's just a really nice way to think about things, which is that we have increasing fire risk in Hawaii. We know that this is our reality, and we know why. And we have human-caused ignitions driving the majority of our fires. Excuse me. 99% of fires are started by humans. Less than 1% is a combination of lightning and lava. This is not like the American West that has lots of lightning starts. It's us doing this. And some of it is, a good majority of it is accidental, which is very hopeful because that is preventable if we're all living like we know we have fire risk, in the way we use our equipment, in the way we have cooking fires and campfires and all that sort of stuff. So, but then once we have the ignition, we have very combustible landscapes and built environments. And those are the parts we really need to work on. We also know that when you zoom out, that what you see when it comes to what's going on with fire in any place is a combination of what's going on with people, climate, and fuels. And in Hawaii, we have the perfect recipe. Everything is pointing toward increased fire occurrence and risk. We have human-caused emissions. We have a climate, pattern that has heavy rainfall, green up events, and then all of a sudden all that vegetation that just grew dries out and becomes standing fuel. And then we have very combustible homes, cities, towns that just weren't built with wildfire resistance or safety in mind. And so this is what we're working with, and this is why we're seeing wildfires and urban conflagrations, and it's here to stay. So we have a lot of work to do in each of the categories I went over. I put this in here because this is a graphic that our team made a long time ago as we were starting to think through, gosh, if this is a whole system, who all impacts this, and who do we need to work with, and who do we need to support and draw and invite to the table? And we went through and we thought through of like all the sectors who contribute to what we see, and I thought of some that we still need to add. But this was our early work to just figure out how we could support this and start working across all kinds of people to get to where we need to. And this it's probably hard to read. It's okay if you don't read it, but essentially we were thinking, well, who creates the built environment in the first place? Planners, architects, engineers. Who else is part of the safety system that we have? Oh, utilities, insurance. Who influences what we think about, what we know about, what we learn, what we care about? Who creates the policies, funding decisions? Who's actually managing the land, the yards, the landscapes? We thought through as many as we could, and we've over the years been trying to engage folks across that whole system. And in the early days, it was like, everyone has a role. We all need to do our part. And now we're seeing for the first time in Hawaii's history, everyone kind of knows that, and they're all stepping into it. And now it's like, wait, we do all have roles, but we have to work together. So I think our next level is to figure out what that looks like and how to do that best we can. And that said, these are the areas we focus on. Fire is the one thing we actually can aim to reduce and minimize and prevent. We won't ever prevent everything, but we can minimize our emissions, and we do that through lots of methods, education, prosecution, whatever, but there's things we can do. We need to manage our land and water and our fuels. We need to make our homes and towns safe and hardened and ignition resistant. And knowing that we're not going to stop or prevent all fires, we need to make sure everyone's ready for evacuation and that our emergency response needs are covered and addressed, and we have optimal fire and emergency response. But it's not easy moving into that new chapter of figuring out what coordination and communication and collaboration looks like. But what we know is that we have really important things on the line, and we know that silos don't work. I had a funny example about it that I wanted to bring up, because this whole event, we were talking and planning and Zooming, and then we missed one detail, which was fire department got the lanyards, we made the name tags, and we didn't measure the clip fitting in the hole, and so we had to teach everyone how to make do. It was like the perfect example, because it made me think about how, we missed a detail and it was a little funky, and we figured out how to make it work, but it's a lot easier if you talk ahead of time and figure that out. And in 2018, some of our team was part of this. We actually met with as many large landowners as we could, and we mapped the fuel break and fuels reduction work that they were working on to see where we needed to go next, what kind of maintenance it needed, what additional projects needed to be done. And we had these huge meetings where we were having the maps and we were prioritizing where to go next. And I can't tell you the number of times we found somebody making a fuel break that ended in one place, and the other jurisdiction had one going somewhere else, and we're like, oh, we can match them up, and then we have better access and better continuity, and then everyone's in on it. And so there's a lot of really functional reasons, not just like, this isn't just soft work where we want to be all friends, except it's awesome to be friends. But there are very real reasons why we need to be communicating and coordinating. So, this is a new slide. And I thought about this a lot, which is just that I think we have to lean into the complexity. Because the really siloed, unilateral, run ahead, do it on my own kind of solutions get us into weird places. And it is complex. We have the framework of the cohesive strategy that we can use. But we have some other ways we can think about it that will help us also make sure we have these integrated solutions that make sense. So we do need to think from Mauka to Makai. Our watershed, native watershed forests, and our managed or unmanaged grasslands, our built environment, they are actually all a part of the spectrum. There are fuels from summit to sea. They're just different types of fuels. And so often we divide into wildland and built environment. Or we segment it so our brains can make sense of it, but our solutions need to have it make sense where we're the methods for treating the fuels are different, but we have some methods we use to protect forests, some to manage lands, some to manage fuels and mitigate risk in the built environment. So the methods are different, but we need to understand that it's continuous. And we need to think that way. I mean, when we make fuel breaks or fire breaks up high, we have to think about erosion that's going to go down and impact the ocean. There's just all of this connectivity. The birds don't recognize our weird boundaries. Water doesn't, wind doesn't, fire doesn't. So we have to be thinking across that entire landscape. The next is we have to think across systems. I already gave some examples of that, but there are lots of things we can do in an integrated fashion. Like fuel breaks can also serve as firefighting access. They can serve as harvest roads. It can serve as additional community egress. Bike paths, we need to be thinking about achieving multiple benefits at once, where we serve our water needs, our food needs, our housing needs, our recreation needs, our sustenance. All of that we can have integrated solutions where we achieve a lot in one fell swoop if we're thinking across all of those different systems and all of our community goals and needs we're trying to serve. And then finally, we have to think across time. We're all talking about looking past the horizon and being, using our imagination. And that's really, really important. We use our best available information to think through what we want to leave for our children and generations down the line. And we have to get started now. We also have to do stuff immediately for immediate risk reduction. Risk is all out there right now. We have work to do. And sometimes you have to do that immediate work while you're also thinking of the long term, what can you do now that's going to lead to more sustained action. So that might look like mowing and weed whacking today, but it might look like figuring out how to get the infrastructure to support agriculture and grazing and restoration for the longer term to completely convert the fuels so that it's sustained. We're not just spending money running out and weed whacking over and over and over again. So we have to be thinking on these different timescales. And also, now that there's so many folks interested and motivated and concerned and ready to take action, there has been decades of work on this, not just by our organization, but by folks at the university, Forest Service. Communities have been at this a very long time as well. Like, we have all been learning and learning and learning. And some have been publishing, and lots of information is already available. So we want to encourage folks to look at what's come before and not reinvent the wheel. We're also building on a long legacy of summits, which is very cool, and now you're a part of that lineage. So the way this all started was that in, 1998, Chief Mueller reminded me there was a big fire on Hawai'i Island, and it got a lot of people talking and convening. And then from then, started some coordinating groups. They launched or founded Hawaii Wildfire Management, our state forestry, Fire League, Wing Ching, started coordinating groups on every island. And so people were already starting to gather and think about this and work on it. And then in 2012, we decided, let's get all of those people together. I could see some people in the room who actually joined us. And we started having these all-partner meetings. And then we outgrew the room. We outgrew, we couldn't even do all the updates in one day anymore. And they were so brief around the giant table. Thank you to Chief Mueller for hosting many of those at PTA. We were like, it's time. I think we finally have this critical mass and there's enough work going on. We thought that was a lot at the time, and now it's like exponentially more. But that felt like a really important big deal thing. And so we ended up having our first Hawaii Wildfire Summit. And in those days it was fun. We did art, we had art tables and lots of trainings and field trips, and our closing ceremony was a spoken word poetry slam. We didn't give prizes, it wasn't a competition, but in my book, Mike Walker's was pretty amazing. That's why I put his picture there. And we didn't have money, we didn't have political will, we didn't have critical mass, we didn't even have attention, funding, policy support, top-down knowledge or care about wildfire issue, but we had each other. And we knew it, and every dollar had to be spent well and in a coordinated way that was really going to affect change. We were all skeleton staffed. It was just a totally different scene, but we built something kind of amazing in terms of the summit and also in terms of the community, but this is not a typical conference. Even though it looks like it and we're having presentations all in a row, this is about each other and building that social infrastructure, and one that is informed by science and best practice and lessons learned. It's intentional community building. It's intentionally meant to inspire cohesive, collective action towards something that matters a lot. I also want to honor the folks who got us here. Everyone keeps giving me credit, but I'm just trying to carry out the vision of these guys. And they were mentors to many of us in the room. Miles Nakahara and Wing Ching spent their life and their careers in state forestry, DOFA, and they watched our landscapes changing. And they saw us lose native watershed forests. They saw fuels conversion. They saw fires happening. Miles was incident commander on so many fires here and then also on the mainland. And then they founded all of this work that needed to, all of the collective efforts, the culture of our collaboration in Hawaii was built from them. And they both passed away during COVID, and they didn't get a public memorial, but I want to say that I think even if you've never met them and you had no idea, they have touched your work if you're working on wildfire. Because so much of what we have and what has been built and what's usable, they started. So I wanted to honor them. And if you take this QR code, I hope I see some phones out. We wrote a tribute and a memorial to them that really outlined a lot of the work that they did. So I encourage you to snap that. I'll give you a minute to do that. So I see some phones up. Please read it. I also wanted to take a moment to honor Chief Todd, who, it's so fresh, I'll keep it very simple. He made us resurrect the summit. So we were maxed out, and I'm like, I don't know if we can do that right now, but we did it last year. And so we're going to do it every year if we can, and it's thanks to him really recognizing that these convenings are really important. I also want to remind us that we're doing this because a lot of folks have lost their lives, and we didn't act fast enough, and we didn't pull the whole system together, and we're living with decades in the making of stuff that we now need to fix. And we can make sure that their lives are not lost for nothing, but rather it turns us into a stronger Hawaii. So with that, I just want to take a minute so we can think about our mentors, think about the shoulders upon which we stand, think about the folks who motivate us and into the future and into a better future. So with that, we've recognized our past, we've recognized our giants that have got us to where we are, to the spirit that they created, to the collaboration by necessity, and also because it's awesome to work in that kind of space where we're all in this together, and we care about each other, we care about our lands and waters. And I hope you enjoy the rest of today, and you feel like you have a sense of what's going on around the state. Thank you so much for being here on behalf of our organization, on all of the hosts that put this together. That's all. Thank you. I'd like to welcome my partner in crime here, who is so amazing. She's not up front, but she's making it all work. And you don't see her much, but we've invited her to cover the Fire Adapted Communities segment and session of today. So with that, I welcome Nani Barreto to start us in our first real session.
Good morning, everyone. That was fantastic, and now you get me, so please lower your expectations for the next 5 minutes. The opening protocol and the welcoming remarks as well. So we're going to move into our first session, focused on fire adapted communities. This is one of the core tenets, like Elizabeth spoke about, of the National Cohesive Wildland Fire Management Strategy, and it's part of the system that really centers on people. It's about our communities, our policies, our funding, our practices, our education, and the built environment. It's all that people stuff. At its core, fire adapted communities, it's about making sure people, communities are prepared for fire, that we're reducing risk where we live, and that we're able to live with fire in a safer, more resilient, more sustainable way. The goals are pretty clear. For communities to understand their risk, for people to know what to do before, during, and after an event, for homes and neighborhoods to reduce their vulnerability, and for all of our systems, our policies, our investments to support this work. This is the part of the system where awareness turns into action. What's exciting right now across Hawaii, we are seeing real momentum in this space. Today we're going to highlight a small sampling. First though, I just want to zoom out a bit. Over the past 3 legislative sessions, we've seen more wildfire-related bills than we've ever seen before. And honestly, that's up from almost 0 historically. So that's a big deal, it's a big shift. We now have things like the Green Fee, which is recognizing wildfire as a hazard that deserves committed, dedicated, sustained funding. Agencies and organizations like Hawaii Wildfire, we're finally starting to build capacity after decades of doing this work with very little resources. And importantly, there is a growing understanding that fire, our risk, isn't just about any one sector or agency. It isn't just about vegetation. It's also about that built environment. Our homes, our structures, our landscaping, our communities. And this kind of work is going to require all of us. Residents, planners, developers, emergency managers, leadership, all of us working together. And these conversations finally together are really happening. So first at the community level, Firewise. We have almost 60 Firewise communities engaged right now across the state. You'll hear from just a few today, but the work is happening across all of them is really incredible. Beyond just that number of 60, we want to recognize the actual people behind that number. These are our community members, our champions, our change makers. They're organizing their neighbors, they're hosting work days, they're leading education events, they're keeping all of this momentum living and alive. And they're not just reducing risk, but they're building community. I want to acknowledge the funding that supports this work while also recognizing that the funding doesn't begin to capture the thousands of volunteer hours that have gone into making these communities safer. This is, for me, one of the most inspiring parts of the system. At the household and resident level, a home assessment program. It's continuing to grow. It started off as one-on-one support for residents, helping them understand how to reduce risk around homes, and also create training community ambassadors for more peer-to-peer, one-on-one support. And it's now evolving into something bigger. This program, like other programs across the country, are being built towards supporting home hardening and retrofit cost share programs. So residents can actually implement the recommended mitigation actions while also aligning with insurance standards and so that we can support insurance retention. We're working in the early stages with national partners, including IBHS and NFPA, so as well as our local insurance providers, to do this here in Hawaii. At the same time, we're focused on working towards ensuring consistency across the state, so all the residents have access to a strong, aligned program. Hawaii is rolling out a county-led program this year. Maui County is moving in that direction, and as more partners step in, we're working together to keep everything coordinated and robust statewide. So all of this can become something that truly works for our residents and homeowners. Community wildfire protection plans. These plans are now being updated across the state. Kauai is already in the process. Hawaii Island will be next, and then Maui and Oahu will follow. These plans are critical. They build that shared understanding of risk, and it helps identify the priority actions for a region. So if you see those workshops coming to your communities, please participate. The plans really do reflect the voices of the people that show up to those meetings. And then to make sure that these plans don't just sit on shelves, we're building CWPP action groups so that we can carry this plan forward into real projects and implementation on the ground. So we do invite all of you to be part of these efforts when those groups come to your area, the areas where you live and work. And then of course, across all of this, our outreach and education. It continues to grow and grow. HWMO, in partnership with the University of Hawaii through our Pacific Fire Exchange program, along with DOFA, our fire and emergency management partners, we continue to expand all of our education, our publications, our trainings, both in quality and reach, but also in depth and breadth. There's so much information now available, technical support now available, so please use it. If you see something that's missing, let us know. If you need help finding something that you're looking for, please come to us. Preparedness. We're entering the season where Ready, Set, Go workshops roll out alongside our Wildfire Drought Lookout campaign. Both of these bring all of the partners together statewide around shared preparedness messaging. So when you see that message or you get the workshop advertisement, please help us circulate those throughout your own organizations and neighborhoods. So as you can see, there's a lot going on, a lot of good work. And maybe, most importantly, we're no longer having to convince people that wildfire is something that Hawaii needs to deal with, that Hawaii needs to pay attention to. We have that awareness now, so the work is starting to look a little bit different. It's about carrying all of this forward, letting it grow, making sure it's coordinated, it's thoughtful, it's connected across agencies, across communities, the whole system. That's what we believe it's going to take to get Hawaii, our communities, our landscapes to be truly thriving for the long haul. So today in this session, Fire Adapted Communities, it's going to give you a window into this system. We're going to start with a panel that's focused on Firewise communities. They're going to be sharing some real experiences from communities and resident leaders on the ground. And I'm just going to say, some of the folks you're about to hear from were so inspired by the work that they were doing in their own neighborhoods that they ended up coming to our organization to work for us. So I am so entirely grateful and thankful for their dedication, ongoing work, commitment, service to their own communities and our communities statewide. So it's my pleasure to introduce the moderators, Cassandra Smith and Erin Conway, who are going to guide this conversation. Come on up, ladies.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Erin Conway. I'm the Firewise coordinator for Oahu and Hawaii. And I know Nani briefly touched on Firewise communities, but we'll be providing a little bit more detail. So Firewise communities in Hawaii and how we can build wildfire resilience. And before proceeding, this work would not be possible without DLNR DOFA support. We do this work jointly through Hawaii with them, but HMO Firewise staff is boots on the ground for the program. And then I just want to start with what research and experience has shown before we get into the Firewise program, which is a home materials and its immediate surroundings truly dictate its ignitability. So the biggest factor in home survival is those two things. And so this is our home ignition zone, the area extending from the structure out to 100 feet, as you can see in those red, orange, and green circles. The highest priority is that 0 to 5 foot zone. We know many communities would have quite a few extra homes in this, which is really why our home ignition zones are important and why that 0 to 5 foot zone is our priority. Because what you do on your property can affect your neighbor, and what they do on their property can also affect you. So the Firewise program helps reduce wildfire risk through local action and planning, and in Hawaii, Firewise staff work directly with communities to support them. So the program provides structured framework for education and risk reduction, and where the Firewise staff come in to support this is virtual and in-person meetings, site visits, community risk assessments, and more. Each community brings its own unique strengths, experiences, and needs. So communities on Hawaii Island are going to look a lot different than urban Honolulu on Oahu, and same for Maui, but this approach really ensures that Firewise work is locally relevant, built around what matters to residents, while also reducing those risks and increasing preparedness in our communities across the state. So the Firewise program is supported by a strong partner network, as we've heard, which has grown significantly in recent years. Just 6 years ago, we only had 15 Firewise communities across the state. Today, we have nearly 50 nationally recognized, along with 10 more actively working towards that recognition. And in 3 years, we've tripled the number of sites, which we're very proud about, contributing to a national network of over 3,000 Firewise communities. This growth reflects not just the increasing awareness of wildfire risk, but also stronger community engagement statewide. And the reason that the program is so successful is it's voluntary and community-driven. Firewise provides structured tools and the support, but the direction and action come from the community. So we know that when communities lead the process, solutions better reflect direct priorities, needs, and the local conditions of that place. So if you're interested in becoming Firewise, we have 4 pretty simple steps. First is just gathering with your neighbors, forming that committee, and then you're going to complete a wildfire risk assessment along with us at Firewise staff, your local fire department, and then DLNR DOFA. With that comes the planning phase, which is our basically creating an action plan, making those risks into our roadmap of priorities, from things that we want to address first to maybe way longer in the future that would take more coordination and whatnot. Third step is action. This is the exciting part. This is the boots on the ground work where we create defensible space around our homes and communities, we reduce hazardous vegetation, and then we increase awareness of wildfire risk in our community. This work is then annually reported to the National Fire Protection Association annually to obtain and maintain Firewise status. And then Firewise success truly does depend on community engagement and sustained action over time. HW really turns these plans to impact through targeted grant support. In 2025, $150K was spread across 35 projects statewide, removing over 140 dumpsters of hazardous vegetation. This work was supported by coalitions and collaboratives in the National Fire Protection Association on Hawaii Island and Oahu, as well as the American Red Cross on Maui. And then we have to give a huge mahalo to our Team Rubicon volunteers. We also really scaled this up in 2026, spreading over 300K across 46 projects statewide. This work was supported by the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Forestry and Wildlife, Kamehameha Schools, coalitions and collaboratives, National Fire Protection Association, and the Bezos Earth Fund. We don't have a report on all of the work that was done because some of it is still ongoing, but we're really going to be proud about showing some of those projects and maybe hearing about them today. And then next, so progress really looks like these communities taking action year after year to reduce their wildfire risks. This work is about turning collaboration into measurable risk reduction. Our strongest protection is communities that are informed, connected, and taking action together. And then lastly, this work is made possible through the sustained partnership of partners who have helped scale Firewise efforts across Hawaii. We want to give a huge mahalo to the following, which is DLNR DOFA, Department of Hawaiian Homelands, National Fire Protection Association, Team Rubicon, the American Red Cross, Kamehameha Schools, coalitions and collaboratives, and the Bezos Earth Foundation. And then, mahalo for your time. I'm going to pass it over to Cassandra Smith, who will be moderating today's panel of Firewise leaders.
Aloha kākou. Mahalo nui, Erin, for that really great comprehensive overview of the Hawaii Firewise program. Now we're going to turn things over to our panelists who are going to share their perspectives from communities across Hawaii doing this work on the ground and in their own neighborhoods. So you'll hear directly from resident leaders who are organizing, learning, and taking action together. And as Nani mentioned, this panel is a bit unique in the sense that 3 of them are my coworkers. They're our Firewise team, and they support, of course, numerous Firewise communities throughout the islands, but are also simultaneously leaders in their own community. So they're bringing both professional and personal experience today. We're also joined by a community leader sharing what Firewise looks like in her neighborhood, including their specific challenges and solutions. So together, this panel offers insight and real on-the-ground experience that we hope will inspire those in attendance today. And I'll briefly introduce our panelists. We have Elizabeth Kiefer from Waialaiki Ridge, Oahu. We have Harriet Parsons from Kamuela View Estates. We have Dana Aina from Waikoloa Village, Hawaii Island. And we also have Anuhea Kane Alii from Kewalo, Oahu. Mahalo to you all for being here today, and let's jump into things. For this very first question, how about we start off with Elizabeth, and then we'll jump to Anuhea. And the question is, can you tell us about what got you started with Firewise, and what makes this work really resonate so personally with you?
Sure. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Kiefer. I live on Oahu, East Honolulu, in a ridge community of about 900 homes. We have actually 3 Firewise community because everything is connected. There's deep gulches on either side, and there's power lines running up and down the gulch. And in the middle of our community, we have a 3-acre overgrown park. And we've actually had fires before. So 2017 and 2021, we had some fires in our gulches. And after the fires in Lahaina, I think a lot of communities looked around and they started to look at their natural environment very differently. And personally, I also work on climate change and health issues, educating medical students in the community about the health effects of wildfires, so particulate matter, respiratory, cardiovascular disease, mental health effects. Because at the end of the day, I think what we all care about is the health of our families and our friends and our neighbors. So Firewise provided a very actionable way for our community to actually do something and make a difference. And that has been the biggest thing, is to get our hands dirty and feel like we are making progress. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Aloha mai kākou, I'm Anita Kanieli'i. I am from Kiwalau'uka Homestead on Oahu. I am a Firewise leader, part of Nāleo o Papakolea. We're actually 3 homestead communities, Papakolea, Kiwalau'uka, and Kalawahine. And on New Year's of 2024, we experienced a fire that was caused by firework embers. And the embers traveled and landed on top of the netting that was on top of our mountain. And that was actually the first time in my life that I was at my home for New Year's. Usually my family, we go to church in Kalihi, but Kalihi was getting a little too crazy with the fireworks. So our congregation decided everyone stayed home. And the first time we stayed home, a fire happened. And this was only a few months after Lahaina, and I have family members that were affected by those fires, and we were trying to help them. So having that fire in my community, that was a wake-up call, and especially it's that moment where your life flashes before your eyes. Not only my own life, I saw my grandma, my auntie, my mom, my whole family, just our whole life was there, and it could have easily been diminished and lost. So I lost a lot of sleep, worried about that, but instead we decided to, let's see what's out there. There has to be someone that is doing this work, and we went to a community meeting, and we met Clay from UH, and he shared with us, you guys should get Firewise. And I was like, well, that's a neat name, Firewise, I like it. And we were introduced to Hawaii Wildfire Management Org, and we love the community-led part, because so often the homesteaders, there's all kinds of organizations that come into the community to take data and statistics, which is great, but they don't come back and share it with us, what they've collected and what's up. So, and especially with the community assessment, it belonged to us. We could choose who was to see it, and that was a really big game changer for us. And prior to that, a lot of beneficiaries' relationship with Department of Hawaiian Homelands is a little bit rocky, but through the Firewise program, we are rebuilding this feeling on this relationship with the department, because come to realize that's who we got. We need to make it work, because homesteads, for many Hawaiians, this is the last place in Hawaii for us to stay and live here. And I want to live here as long as possible. So with this program, it's ensuring my future generations to still have a place to live in Hawaii.
Mahalo you two for that. Those are really great stories, and it really brings home how personal this work is for everybody. For our next question, how about we have Dana and then Harriet? And for communities here in Hawaii who recognize the risk but are unsure where to begin, what helped your neighborhood move from awareness into action? Go ahead, Dana.
Hello, Kako. I'm Dana Aina. I live in Waikoloa Village, but I'm from Kailua Kona. Kona if you're interested. Go Wildcats. In Waikoloa Village, we moved there in 2017, my wife Shelley and myself, and the awareness didn't just show up, it just kind of knocked us over the head, because in 2018, we had a wildfire come within a half mile of the village, and a couple things you can do when you experience wildfire, or wildfire is near to where you live. Some of that is paralysis. But for us, we wanted to know what we could do to help not just ourselves, but our community. And we ended up joining our Firewise community because luckily Waikoloa Village was already a Firewise community at that time. And we learned a lot, and eventually got training to be a community wildfire ambassador and trained home assessors. And so we were able to take that mana'o and share it with other people in our community and even other areas where we traveled to. And instead of just fear, we had a strategy. We could have a checklist of things that our neighbors could do to keep their homes safe as well. And we didn't have to look to the horizon, to the unmanaged lands, thinking that we couldn't do anything about that. We were able to focus on our home and the 0 to 5 feet right around our house. And it sort of empowered us, and we were able to move beyond that point and break down what we needed to do into sort of like a strategy, a strategy of defense. So that's how awareness hit us personally, and how we're able to kind of move towards action. But it's just, for me, a lot of sharing of that mana'o and talking story with a lot of the other Firewise leaders out there. We all learn from each other. Every home, when I do a home assessment, as a home assessment program manager for East WMO, every home is different. I always learn something, and there's always something that we can share to help people take action and keep their homes and their community as safe as possible. And that's where we malama each other, and we malama aina as well.
Hi, so my name is Hannah Parsons. I now work for Hawai'i Wildfire Management Organization. I moved to Hawaii in 2011. I lived in Hilo for the longest time, and then during COVID I moved in, who is now my husband, in 2020 in Waimea, Kamala View Estates. It's just right side Waimea. And in 2021 there was a wildfire, and it came all the way down Parkland. I don't know if you know what the cause was, but it was a human cause, all the way down to the community, with some members going into the community. And that was kind of a wake-up call, because I was actually not there, and my dog to this was like, what do I do? I don't have that answer, and that was kind of scary. Try. So that was sort of 2021. Later to find out, actually the same wildfire happened, same place, if it's not the same one, back in 2007. So the same man who burned in 2007. So we know it's happened before, we know it's going to happen again. Let's get imaginative, someone said yesterday. I don't even want to go there, but yes, I will prepare for that worst case scenario. So, funny enough, the way I got into Firewise, and I'll tell you that story. I was driving one day with my daughter in the car, and there's this owl, who I later find out is a Kalea Pueo, cool, on the side of the road. This is weird. Small neighborhood. I love my neighborhood. We're like 122 homes. Everyone knows everyone. Slowly, it's wonderful. So we pulled over. We parked the car and we went over, and there was a roadside booth. Funny enough, I don't know if I should declare this, but Nani Greta lives in my community. I was doing Firewise, so I shoot her on stage. Anyway, sorry, she starts talking to me about there is something I can do to help my family, to help my community. And do I want a home assessment? Do I want to use a free green waste dumpster? Free? I like free. Dumpster, yes, my green waste, because I have hatchback. I have 2 hatchbacks. I don't have a big truck. I'm European, as you can tell, I'm from England. We like little cars, but little cars are little. So that was really helpful, and through that, then I had to do a home assessment. So your question was, what helped me? Well, I joined my Firewise community, and what helped was getting the knowledge first. So first getting that home assessment, learning what's impactful for me, my family, my community. And then from there, when I joined the Firewise community, we have a matriarch who says little by little, do the work little by little. and it's the face-to-face. So over time, we've built our little Firewise community. In fact, May 2nd, we had an event, and I've got a new community member joining our team. I'm very excited. But it's sort of like that face-to-face. So what helped our neighborhood move from the awareness to on-ground action is the face-to-face conversations. It's walking my dog in the neighborhood and having those awkward conversations, building up those connections. It's walking my daughter, oh, you're in school with my daughter and you live there. Oh, great, let's start talking to you. Were you here in the 2021 wildfires? Yeah. So that was useful. So what's helped us move is on-ground action it can be simple as a dumpster, it can be simple as a roadside booth. You've got to start somewhere, and on-ground action, a huge thank you to HWMO for providing grants to enable us to take that action. So thank you.
Thank you both so much. That was really great. And I think it's important that you're mentioning that it's okay to start small. You don't have to just take off a giant bite-sized chunk right away. And that once that momentum builds, that's what can really lead to those partnerships. And it's that in-person, face-to-face relationship building that I'm hearing is really what's gluing a lot of these communities together. For our next question, how about we start with Elizabeth and then go to Dana? And for communities listening here today, can you share what this work has looked like? And are there key moments that stand out as real shifts forward?
Sure. I would say that probably our biggest win has been the community building that we've been able to accomplish in the neighborhood and the shared partnerships that we've created with all these partner organizations through the tackling of this 3-acre park. As you just mentioned, we started very small, so it's full of halekoa and guinea grass and California grass, and it sits right in the middle of the neighborhood. So our first step was to actually adopt the park from the city and county. It's an unimproved land agreement that our neighborhood entered into with city and county. And then we just started slowly. So we got our first dumpster, we did our first green waste event, we removed halekoa and these invasive grasses, and we looked around, we filled the dumpster, and we thought, oh, we didn't make a dent. 3 acres is a lot of land. But we kept showing up to the HWMO meetings and learning from other communities. And we heard, and I learned about a community on the Big Island that used targeted grazing with sheep and goats to work on their flammable vegetation. So I Googled Oahu sheep goats and found a company in the North Shore that grazed under solar panels. They had never done a residential project before. And I called up the city and county and I said, Denny, how do you feel if I introduce 100 animals into our residential neighborhood for 2 weeks with an electric fence around the perimeter? And he said, okay. But we kept doing things and moving it up the chain, and nobody said no. So I was a little shocked when it actually happened and the animals entered the park. That was last May. And we slowly started chipping away at things. And so the vegetation removal that the animals provided cleared the way for more ideas. So again, learning from HWMO about Team Rubicon, called up city and county. How do you feel about veterans with chainsaws? And he was okay with it. We got the permits, and then we made a fire break at the top of this park. All the while we were building momentum with our community, educating people, gathering more people in. And then 2 weeks ago, I got another idea from Papa Kaleo with the Pueo the Owl. And I thought, wow, they made fire education fun with the events that they held. So what do we have? What can we do? So we created Flird Fest 2 weeks ago, where we had a community block party, and we timed it with the entry of the animals into the park. And we had some fire education and games and face painting. And it was a really good way to let people know about fire risk in the community. And again, the partnerships keep growing. So tomorrow, we're planting trees donated by Urban Forestry. We have some Willy Willy trees that are very special, and we're planting 3 or 4 more. So really just starting small and having everything snowball, learning from the other communities has been our greatest success.
Thank you, thank you. Dana?
For us, it's really grown. So we have a a small committee. For a large community of 7,000 people and 3,000 plus households, we only have 5 people on our committee. And we started slow. We started with that top story sessions with each other, with our neighbors, and then we figured out what was the concerns for the community, and then we tried to address them. So in 2021, for example, we evacuated, and good thing it was on a weekend, and so school wasn't in session, which would have been a nightmare for all the parents trying to get back in the village while everybody was trying to get out of the village. And we only have one permanent road in and out of the community, like many neighborhoods. And what we found out after our Firewise committee, after we did a community survey, is that there are a lot of people stuck in traffic for 3 to 4 hours trying to get down the 6 miles road down to the highway. So we thought, well, let's see if we can help. So instead of just giving people a map and saying, here's where it is, you guys missed it, it was right there, half a mile away, we actually started a emergency access event trial run, and we called it Hulu Holo Holo because the road is Hulu Road. And we invited the mayor, the state senators, HWMO, Kaleo Puel was there. We invited civil defense, fire department, police, and we thought, maybe a couple of them would show up. Everybody showed up. And so we had about 200 or 300 cars that first time go down the road, single lane road. It's not normally open to traffic, but they do open it, for emergency situations, and it was a big eye-opener for us. It really helped our community feel like they were empowered and they had another way to get out of that emergency situation. And then the second or maybe second and third, was kind of a financial and systemic change or key for us, and part of that was our community was able to lobby for our 3,000 plus HOA households to initiate a mitigation fee. So we started at $52 a couple of years ago, and now we're up to $60 per household. So 3,000, do the math, every year we're generating over $190,000 that our HOA maintenance crew takes and addresses directly to mitigation within the village in those common areas, those common spaces that keep people up at night. And then our relationship, by that I mean myself and Shelley volunteering for Team Rubicon, which was mentioned before. So we actually were selected in Waikoloa for a huge mitigation op in 2024 and continuation of that same op in 2025 to mitigate Kiawe mostly along the Mauka fuel break of the village. And so in total, those 2 or 3 service projects and operations, we had over 100 people total and over 5,000 people hours and over 500,000 in-kind dollars for free to mitigate almost 3 miles of the 3.2 mile Mauka fuel break. So it can start small, but it can build. But it's all about what we're talking about: partnerships, building trust in those agencies and organizations, because they're really there to help you. You just got to talk to the right person. You got to get them to that yes, and then they show up and they help you do the work. But I would say, get involved, because 5 people trying to do this is a lot. So we don't want burnout. So everybody out there in your community, talk to your neighbors, get them on the committee, and then you can have that moment where you can hopefully have your own key shift.
That was great. Thank you, guys. Those are really inspiring examples, and it shows what's possible when communities take those first small steps and then keep developing those partnerships. I also think that creativity piece is really important to highlight, because obviously you're pushing forward what the community wants. And I think that by educating and bringing people in that way, you guys are doing amazing work, and the money just follows, right, with these creative solutions. So awesome. And
For this next question, how about we have Anuhea and then Harriet Gold? And this one is, for many communities, the work is ongoing, and it's not always smooth sailing, as we've seen and we know firsthand. But what lessons have come from that process, and what continues to sustain your motivation over time?
Deep breaths in this work. Firewise is working, or you're in your own community, and what I've witnessed in my community throughout the years, we have lost our connection from each other, especially with the fast pace of the world. Sometimes when we first started doing Firewise and I was doing door knocking, people weren't coming to the doors, but could see them hiding behind the curtains. And any lessons that I learned, start where you are, start now. Because future you is going to be so appreciative. That's what I hear from all of our kupuna, is to start as soon as possible, because the work is just going to keep loading on as time goes on. If not a fire, it's going to be heavy rain. Not heavy rain, it's going to be the volcano. There's something going on always, but to keep going, even when it feels the hardest. What I've experienced through this Firewise program is a rebuilding of Pilina in the communities, but especially with the other homesteads. Papakolea is located in town. So when I was first given this position, I was like, oh man, like, not everybody really likes town that much. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be accepted, but come as you are, be your ultimate genuine self, and it's going to be received. And especially, I don't know about you guys, but if somebody yells at me, it's not going to ignite me to want to work with someone. So yelling at agencies can get their attention, but especially when you come with a plan, you come with a shovel-ready project and you invite those organizations to be part of the solution, it gets the ball rolling a lot faster and better. And also, I like the Olelo police, but just a little bit Olelo. There is a word, ni'ele. Ni'ele means it's when you have a connection to that place that you are nosy and looking into it. We should be ni'ele to our own communities. We should be ni'ele if there's somebody walking on a road that we don't know, if there's a new abandoned car parked on the road that is not familiar, be ni'ele, check it out, and especially be open to rebuilding those relationships with your neighbors. I'm a little younger than most of my neighbors, but a lot of them I went to school with their grandkids. So this past weekend we had one auntie, and I took a picture with her and I posted it, and I tagged all my classmates. I was like, wow, look, your grandma coming out to clean up. Where you guys stay? It might come off as calling out, but that's ni'ele. That is to call in people to uptake that kuleana. Firewise is primarily doing the yard work, but really the biggest portion is the pilina rebuilding within your communities.
So the question was, what lessons have come from the process and what continues to sustain motivation? This work is little by little. It is face to face. It's wonderful that we have people working up here, but us Firewise, us residents, we're down here, and it's that slow, face to face, little by little. As Eunice, she was always like, little by little. And what inspires me or sustains motivation are those one-on-one conversations. It's a two-way street. This year was the first year. We have 3 main streets in my community. This was the first year with the HWO money, we used a dumpster on that 3rd street. I remember this uncle, he is older and similar to me, has a little hatchback, and he was dragging his vegetation over on a tarp to the dumpster. And I came help him, and we started talking. I hadn't met him before. Uncle George, he was in the community when the wildfire happened. He said, thank you, I'm so glad your committee did this, I'm so glad. I'm like, it's not just me, like, I appreciate this. Because we thought no one cared. And that was really hard to hear, because like, we've been in that community for a while during Firewise, but we hadn't reached everyone. And so those face-to-face conversations, you have to keep going back, you keep having to try, because we do care. I mean, I'll try to do the work. Sorry, I'm the emotional one. And that's what keeps me sustained, is those connections with your community. It's that face-to-face. And that's what motivates me. As I'm sitting at my desk, I can see the bulldozer line from the 2021 fire. When I'm coming to work, these two actually really inspire me. Flirtfest? What a name! So actually this year, in the past, we've done roadside booths. We put up a booth, we sit there, we wave at passing cars, and we wave at passing cars, and we wave at passing cars. This year, we got Parker Ranch to open up the gates. We had them let us walk onto their land and see where the wildfire was up close and have those conversations face to face, community and the large landowner. If you're a large landowner out here, honestly, sometimes that's what a community needs, is you should just open up the gate and talk face to face, one-on-one with that community. And it was great. We also had the volunteer fire department. We have those on Hawai'i Island. They are gems. They came with a big red shiny brush truck. They had the hose, their kids were there, Big Island bubbles shot out Hawai'i Island. They're in my neighborhood. They opened up the food truck. We had boba tea. It was so much fun, and community came. So what sustains me is the face-to-face, it's the community, it's the connections, but just make sure we're bringing the joy, because you need the joy and the fun to make it sustainable. So a huge thank you to these people, because that's what inspires me too. Thank you.
Oh, mahalo to you both for being so real about everything, because I think that honesty is what folks are looking for. They want to hear the real stories, they want to hear the ups and downs, but also all that positive stuff that comes as a result of chipping away, talking face to face with your neighbor. And also, we always have this saying, we move at the speed of trust. So we really have to move at the speed of neighborhood Kilina, and so that is a huge piece to this. So mahalo for sharing that with everybody here today. I want to pose one final question for everybody, just give you a moment each to respond. And that final question is, what gives you the most hope moving forward, and what's the most exciting about this work, your future Firewise work? And for this, can we start with Elizabeth?
Yes, I have a lot of hope, because I think that in doing this work, you can see how a community can change their risk profile, even though that starts out slowly and seems small at first, but it has just snowballed. And I can't believe that we got from one dumpster to 100 goats for 2 years. So that's been really amazing. The other thing that gives me hope and moves us forward is, again, we keep saying it, but the community where you show up every couple of months and you have these Zoom meetings with Firewise and in person, and you meet the people and you hear about the work that they're doing, and we all learn from each other. And also I hope that our work too can be a test case for city government, for other communities, to show that there's a proof of concept. You can have these crazy ideas and you can push them forward and you can find unique solutions, and that people all want to work together to make the land better, to make the health better, and to help chip away at this solution. So,
thank you, Elizabeth. Dana?
I have hope that we have more people taking charge and empowering themselves to do the kind of work that you need to do to have a wildfire resilient community. And it's all about figuring out that it's not about what's on the horizon, it's about what's in front of you. It's not the neighbors, it's not the fuel breaks, it's not the forest, it's not the tall grasses. And I have hope, and for everybody in our community to realize that they can empower themselves and take action and have a community as a whole that has the focus on the strategies and the monopoly that they need to move forward. So, and then all of the great people that I work with, not just in our office with HWMO, but I see all the Firewise community leaders out there. I want to acknowledge you and mahalo you for sharing your monopoly with us. And like Elizabeth was saying, we're all saying, we're inspired by each other, but I'm inspired by you as well. We're all inspired by the work we do, and it gives us hope that we're going to get to that point we want to be at.
Holiday.
Harriet?
So what's hope and exciting? I think I'm just going to go with exciting for now. And what excites me most is we started in a smaller committee and we started with just 1 or 2 dumpsters, and we're building. And what excites me most is, I wish I had the vision. I don't have the vision, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see where we go. I'm working on my house as well at the same time as I'm helping my community, taking out windows, putting up hardy board, like trying to do the best for my own home. And I don't know what it's going to look like at the end, but I have hope that we're going to get there. And that's what excites me. It's unknown, but I know the direction I'm headed, and that excites me. And the connections along the way, those like knowing and building that community is really important, and that's what excites me.
Thanks, Harriet. Yeah?
There should have been a picture that was shown of, we hosted an emergency preparedness event in December, and we purposely do it December because of a fire that occurred on New Year's, and we had our keiki lead the panel discussion, and that's literally our future. They are involved with our Firewise work. They want to be Khalil. And that's what really inspires me to continue doing this. And another part is, big uncle in my community, he's named after the street that I live on. And because of his choices he made before, he's actually houseless on the street that he's named after. And growing up, I always heard stories about this uncle, of all the crazy things he did. But when we first started with Firewise, we actually was weed whacking around the area where he rests. And then he came out and said, "What you guys doing?" I was like, "Oh, we cleaning up, we being Firewise. Firewise, what is it? He's doing yard work." "Yes, uncle, we're doing yard work to clear out the vegetation so no fires happen." This uncle, he is the first and the last person at all of our cleanups. This past weekend, he helped to clear up my own home. And this is where I'm seeing that, yes, Firewise is helping with the mitigation, but it can really help to bring healing to communities, to bring that clarity of what's important. Lots of times we find that families, they have their own internal challenges, and it's the reason why that things pile up around their home, or especially homesteads. It's like the only base for most families. When our family members move away to the continent, there's a couple boxes that they leave home, and those things can pile up. So an initiative that we have started is to do community garage sales and yard sales. First we started in Papakulea, and then Nanakuli and Waianae also did theirs. And then we learned that all homestays used to do community-wide garage sales before. And it is allowing the communities to reintroduce themselves to each other. Oh, who has the best beef stew around? Oh, is that auntie on 4th Street? And it's just really beautiful to be able to witness that. And I'm so honored and mahalo to Elizabeth and Nani for allowing me to hold this position. I understand this kuleana I have, especially if you, please raise your hand if you are a beneficiary, homesteader. Mahalo. It is not easy being a beneficiary. It is not easy to be a Hawaiian sometimes, but man, it's worth it. And there's no better place to be Hawaiian than in Hawaii. So please, go out there. Start with your own home. Pick up those dry tea leaves around your home. All we share is recommendations. It's your home. You choose what you want your outcome to be. So, mahalo.
Mahalo to all of you. You're gonna make me start tearing up here. It's, it's such an honor to work with you all. I'm honored to be up here today hosting this, and I just want to thank you all for sharing your experiences and opening your hearts and letting folks into this, because it's obviously very personal for all of us. I think what's really clear is that this work takes time, strong relationships, and persistence. Those are kind of the common themes that they're touching on today. And what's really cool is that what's powerful is that communities can achieve so much when working within this Firewise framework. Before we wrap up, I want to shout out and mahalo DOFA and the county fire departments who are also very integral to this initiative, and mahalo to each and every one of you for being part of this conversation. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize those who are active in their own Firewise communities. Can you just raise your hand for everybody here? I know we have a bunch of you. Woo! Let's give them a round of applause too, because they are the ones making the application. Like Ronnie was saying, this was just a snippet, but we hope it was a great representation for you all of what is possible through the Firewise network. With that concludes our Firewise panel. Mahalo to everybody for your time. Thank you, panelists.
To the Hawaii Wildfire Summit to give out awards, and you'll see the rest of what they are, but we have an award for Harriet. So now you know there's awards at the end, but she has to catch a plane, and we realized that it's a mismatch. She's going to miss the whole thing, and we just couldn't do it at the office. Like, there you go. So we have a Walk the Talk award because she is foregoing kitchen and bathroom renovations to harden her home and retrofit it for wildfire safety, to get rid of the bushes and make a rock wall instead. She's putting her money where her mouth is at her own home with her own family, being a part of the leadership of her own community, and now she's working across the entire island and state and training folks to do the same. And so at every single level, she's contributing and inspiring us. So here is the 2026 Hawaii Wildfire Summit Walk the Talk Award to Harriet.
I just want to give this entire panel another huge round of applause. These are our community members, our volunteers. This is really hard work, and it's really hard work. And they're in it to win it. They're committed. They are the movers and shakers. I showed you that map of the 60 Firewise sites across the state. Those are the dots on there. That's what you saw were the stories behind those dots. So I am so moved. I am so honored. I've been gifted this responsibility to steward and to cherish and to support them in this work. And it really is, it's the action on the ground that's showing where we can be as a state. So again, big mahalo nui to our Firewise panelists that were up here. Thank you.